Hi, my name is Frank Washkuch. I'm the news editor at PR Week, and I'm here with Billee Howard. She is the Creative Development Officer at Allison+Partners. Billee, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you recently did a report on first quarter trends for 2012. What were the main jump out points that you saw when you did that report?
Well, I think the pervasive thing that we were seeing across all industries and business and consumerism is, in the era post Steve Jobs, a lot of things were able to be extrapolated from Apple that weren't necessarily seen when he was alive. Everyone was focused on his products, which were certainly something to be focused on. But now, a lot of the things that made Apple tick are coming to light, and a lot of brands are taking notice of them to succeed. The first one is the notion of specialization. That's something that everyone is taking hold of, I think. And the way that you can see that come to life is, in the past when product was king, not that it's not important anymore, but now experience is king. Everyone focused on trying to be as good at as many things as possible that made sense for you. That was the GE way, and that worked for a very long time. In the Jobs era, you're seeing that companies are trying to follow the suit of Apple of being terrific at one thing and doing it better than anyone else. So that's something that we're seeing, along with a lot of other trends that are playing out, from management to controlling the supply chain from the standpoint of experience, that are taking shape across the landscape.
So with experience being so much more important than it used to be for brands, what does that mean for both the marketers on the brand side and the folks at the agencies on your side?
Well, to what we're seeing is that, communications becomes more and more important. And I think that, we've always wanted communications to be important. It's certainly always been an important tool. But, the difference is, instead of just being a vehicle of awareness generation and kind of being at the end of the supply chain, it's becoming an innovation in itself. Because if you're trying to, create winning experiences, that all starts with impactful storytelling, and it starts with things that are going to drive immersion and engagement. And those are things that need to become complements to what you're producing product and service wise if you're going to win in the market today.
And so that being said, how is the economy, which is still a little bit uncertain, affecting brands as they move from Q1 into Q2? What did you see in your report?
Well, I don't think that we necessarily look at the economy through a financial lens. I do think that, the numbers are strengthening. I think that you're seeing a bit of a return in consumer confidence, but consumers are still finicky in the sense that they're not going to pay for things that are not custom tailored to them, and they're not going to pay for things that are not truly unique. So that goes back to the whole concept of specialization, that's something that's definitely continuing to take shape. The other thing that we're seeing is a very, very strong continuance of emerging market economy growth, and a lot of the brands that we're working with are not only looking to succeed here, but to create winning experiences globally. And
it's funny that you say that, because in the Publicis earnings this morning, they did very well in emerging markets. Omnicom did very well in emerging markets earlier this week. Why is there such an emphasis on those undeveloped or developing countries right now? Why are they such a target point?
Well, as we've said for the last 20 years, technology is the great equalizer, and we've seen that in many ways, from empowerment and the Occupy Wall Street movement and all things along those lines, of citizen journalism and everyone having some skin and voice in the game. But what people don't necessarily realize is that technology equalized the global economy, and it gave life in very quick form to emerging market countries in many other regions of the world that have enabled them to catch up with us at an alarming pace. And you have, for the first time, what we're calling a global middle class. And the world center of gravity is moving from west to east. And if you think about it that way, a lot of people, I believe the CEO of Unilever said this, but Singapore is the new nexus of much of the global economy, because that's the central point, as opposed to what we used to think. So if you're going to actually grow and you're going to find pockets of opportunity outside of traditional markets that are suffering or are a bit consolidated, emerging markets are the only way to the future.
So what does that mean for the rest of the year? There's 3 quarters left after all. What do brands need to know about halfway through Q2, but also into the latter half of the year?
Well, I think, what we're seeing is probably a continuation of more of the same. I think that, the imagination economy that we've seen over the last several quarters is not going anywhere. It's driving everything that winning businesses are doing today, and that certainly ladders up and down to communications. Creativity is king. Activation is one thing. Getting people to buy your products and services is a given. Engaging them and turning them into brand loyalists and brand advocates is entirely another. And I think that's something very interesting to note is if you look at the nexus point of where innovation is stemming from, or as we say in the report, where the aorta of innovation is now, certainly it's in Silicon Valley and always will be. But what's interesting is that a lot of that gap between Silicon Valley and Hollywood is closing because as immersive experiences become critical to all brands, everyone is interestingly looking to Hollywood to figure out how to drive that engagement.
Yeah, and that ties into storytelling, which you mentioned before, and it's really interesting. Again, this is Billee Howard. She is with Allison+Partners, and I'm Frank Washkuch, the news editor at PR Week. Thanks again.